Marshall Blackburn, Adam Schiff, thanks so much for joining us. Let's bring in CNN's Dana Bash. She's joining us from Capitol Hill. Also, Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, a CNN military analyst, former commanding general, U.S. Army, Europe, and the 7th Army. And here with me in our studio, CNN's Jake Tapper and Gloria Borger. So, Dana, what's been the reaction so far up on Capitol Hill?
There is a lot of I told you so going on, particularly in the Republican ranks. You heard a little bit there from Marshall Blackburn. Some frustration from Republicans who are glad that the president has laid out this strategy, who are glad that he wants to finally be more robust in helping the Syrian rebels, those that are left to combat ISIS, but not very happy in the way that the president laid it out, because some Republicans I've already talked to think that he was too effusive in the idea that the threat around the world is as low as it is now. But I think the broader, more important point is the question about whether the president is going to get this authorization that he is seeking. He didn't explicitly talk about what he really wants from Congress, but what it is, Wolf, is not so much about money. $500 million is part of it, but it is the legal authority that he thinks that he absolutely needs to carry out this strategy, and that is to have what has until now been really covert operations be out in the open, have the Defense Department run these operations to actually train Syrian rebels effectively to combat ISIS. He needs that. He wants it now, like in the next 2 weeks. He's been making calls all day long to try to get that. So the question is going to be whether he will before Congress leaves for probably in about 2 weeks to go campaign full-time for their midterm elections. We don't know whether that's going to happen. There will be a meeting tomorrow morning, a really important one, where House Republicans will discuss it and decide whether they're going to give that to him in the near term.
Yeah, Congress in session for only 2 weeks, and then they go out, as you say, into recess to go out and campaign. Let me play another little clip. Here's an excerpt of what the president said about an hour or so ago.
In a region that has known so much bloodshed, these terrorists are unique in their brutality. They execute captured prisoners. They kill children. They enslave, rape, and force women into marriage. They threatened a religious minority with genocide. And in acts of barbarism, they took the lives of 2 American journalists, Jim Foley and Stephen Sotloff.
All right, Jake and Gloria. So the president, he had a major mission tonight to convince the American public. He's on top of it. He has a strategy, and he deserves their support. How did he do?
Well, the American people are already there. They're angry and they're afraid because of the beheading videos that they've seen. And because they have been told from national security sources here and there that ISIS does pose a threat, if not right now, to the American people in the homeland, potentially sometime in the near future. So they're already there. So President Obama calling for strikes, as you know, Wolf, because you and I have covered this in the last few days because of CNN polling, the American people support strikes, and they also support President Obama's pledge for no combat troops, no U.S. combat troops, and a greater involvement of foreign countries. I think the question is the details of the strategy that we didn't hear specifically, as the Congresswoman talked about. What are the allies contributing? Who specifically? What specifically? And as Jay said, that's evolving. We're just learning.
Still a work in progress.
A work in progress is a polite term for it.
You know, let's just take a step back for a moment, because this is a speech that the president never intended to give, didn't want to give, has been ambivalent about what he ought to do. And this is a president whose narrative was killing Osama bin Laden, ending 2 wars. And what he did tonight when he stepped up to that microphone is he essentially said, I am going to get involved in large airstrikes over 2 countries. He said no boots on the ground, but over 2 countries in a conflict that could well outlast his administration, that he would be handing it over to the next administration effectively. There's no end point to this. There can't possibly be an end point, as Anderson pointed out earlier. So I think for the president tonight, this was a very difficult speech for him to give, and he has inserted us into the middle of a Syrian civil war. And that is also a very difficult position for us to be in.
Let me bring in General Hertling. Generally, as you know, the military, when they hear the commander-in-chief give them an order, they want clarity in the mission. They also want an exit strategy. Did the U.S. military, the men and women who will be sent over there, did they get clarity on those points?
Well, it's a great question, Wolf, because I was just listening to Gloria, and the way I listened to the president's speech, I put myself in the position of my friend, General Lloyd Austin, the combatant commander of Central Command. And I said, what is he hearing right now? And I think what General Austin probably heard was, let me get this straight. You want me to expand operations into a country that's having a civil war where we don't like the leader of that country. We're expanding operations in a country that's still having a religious war and has a little bit of turmoil with their government. You're asking me to train more forces, bring potentially a 40-member coalition together, conduct precision airstrikes where I don't hurt innocents, and I continue to train people to do this operation. I think General Austin would say, I've got the clarity. The end state is to defeat ISIS and eventually to destroy ISIS. He's been given an expansion of his mission, and I think he can do that. He also has, as you mentioned before, some constraints and restraints. We continue to focus on this phrase that I abhor, which is this boots on the ground. We've got to get to the mission set. What is he being asked to do, and how is he expected to do it when we continue to just focus on the number of individuals he is given as the commander? We have to give him a clear mission, which I think the president did tonight. There was a good mission analysis, and I think from a commander's intent, General Austin knows exactly what he has to do with conventional trainers, with special operations forces, and with links to not only our own governments, but the governments of Iraq, as well as the coalition as they're formed.